So, what are my thoughts on Prince's Black Album? What's going on, ladies and gents? It's Cyberland coming back to you with another album review. Prince is untitled, but it normally is called the Black Album. So, this album was supposed to come out. I forget the date, but it was supposed to drop, and it did. And within a couple days, it was pulled from shelves. Apparently, Prince felt the album was evil. He felt the album should not be released, that people should not hear the album. And that was it. And then Prince went on to work on another album, which I'll cover at a later point. But it was a big deal because there was only a few people that actually got the album, and then the record stores had to yank it. They had to pull it from the stores. To this day, I've never understood the real reasoning behind that. Because when I listened to it, I just... Maybe Prince just thought it was a bad album. Maybe that's what it was. Because there isn't anything bad on it, I don't think. But the problem with this album is that after coming off A Sign of the Times, it kind of felt like Prince was going a step backwards. And I kind of feel like that because Sign of the Times, I mean, it's a double album. The Black Album is not a double album. The songs are long on here, but it was just like, you got all these different elements of lyrics, you got all these different elements of sounds and music going together, and they flow. And then the Black Album just kind of felt like very simplistic, not a lot to chew on, not a lot to enjoy, maybe, I guess you could say. And apparently, the reason why the album was even made was that Prince was feeling some type of way because I guess some of his fans were low-key talking shit, and they were like, Prince had lost his roots. He had deviated too far from... He had been making more pop music or more or radio-friendly music. But, which you could say could be true. But here's the thing. And this album is very similar to, I would say, Dirty Mind, Controversy, and 1999. But without the guitars. It's really just a bunch of beats and wave music, but I don't remember a lot of guitars in it or anything. It's not of that sound, it's more the lyrics. It's the lyrics of that time period, which is not a bad thing. But what you gotta understand is that, and I'm gonna say this right now because I think people when people say who's better, Mike or Prince. Prince was the musician. He was better than Mike as a musician because he was a musician. Mike was not a full-fledged musician. Mike could only play a handful of instruments. Prince could play, over 10. I think he played like 20, 30 instruments. Nonetheless, that was Prince's forte, and he did all his music. He did everything on his own. He didn't have, Mike had people write certain things for him. And Mike was a better performer. And Mike's albums were... The thing about Mike's albums was everybody could listen to Mike's albums. Little kids could listen to Mike's albums. Adults. Nobody ever felt that listening to Michael Jackson's albums would get a reaction out of them to the point of, okay, turn this off. This is too much. Well, Prince was that type of person. He could get somebody to be like, hey, turn that off. That's too much. That you ain't playing that in my house. We ain't playing that over here. And it wasn't because the songs were bad. It was because the songs were too fucking sexually explicit for the time period. This is the 80s, you know? And Prince was not going to step and fetch. And I'm not saying Mike did, but Prince was not going to cater fully to that audience. I don't think Prince ever catered to anybody when he made the albums he already made up at this point in his career. I think it was just one of those things of where he just wanted to try something different, and it worked. But at the same time, I think Prince, after Purple Rain and Around the World in a Day and Sign of the Times in 1999, I think Prince realized that, you know, I can make songs like Darling Nikki and I can make songs like When Doves Cry, and I can make songs like Raspberry Beret in 1999. The thing is, certain songs, if my songs are too explicit, if they're just too explicit, then there's a certain group of people that are not going to listen to these songs. That's just the way it is. And I don't think Prince was desperate for money or anything. He was going to sell out. But at a certain point, you have to be like, okay, who am I making? When I make these songs, or when he was making these songs, did he ever keep that in mind that, hey, you can make an album like the Black Album, but understand that a lot of people are not going to listen to it. Not because it's a bad piece of work. I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great album. It's not his best work, but I think really where the album suffers is the production. The production for it is very limited to me compared to Sign of the Times and even Purple Rain. The production just felt real flat. Like there wasn't a lot going on with that. But parents, you know, are going to play Michael Jackson's Bad, and they're going to allow that to be played in their house. They're not going to allow the Black Album, Prince's Black Album, to be played. If they, for those who got, you know, that's a, it's only can be, you know, there's a small minute of people that are going to listen to this album because it's very sexually explicit, and that's not to say it's a bad album, but you know, he's not going to get the ears of everybody, whereas Mike with Bad was able to get everybody's ears. Prince was able to get everybody's ears with Sign of the Times, but with this album it's not going to happen because parents, you know, because don't forget, children are consumers, parents are consumers. They're not going to play this is not an album that I would play around my kids. You know, maybe my oldest now, I would consider it, but I don't know, because these songs are they're highly, and at this point, this is his most explicit album at this point too. You know, it's like you took the song Let's Pretend We're Married and just, that was the seed, and these are like the vines that grew off of that seed, you know? And it's okay, you know, that's not a bad thing. But at the same time, it's going to alienate a group of fans that are used to already Sign of the Times and Purple Rain or Around the World in a Day. It's going to alienate those fans, and I think that's why Prince probably pulled it, because he didn't want to alienate those fans. And I think he realized, look, you know, I'm changing, and I'm trying to try different things. I'm trying to evolve, and I can't, and I'm just not interested in writing songs like Darling Nikki anymore. And I think that, and you know, maybe every once in a while he might consider it. But I think Prince was really just trying to move away from that. And I think the scrutiny pissed him off and made him feel some type of way. So he made this album just to say, hey, I can still do this stuff. But the problem with that is, was this the album that you really want to make? Or was this album that you were just making for those people that are bitching and complaining because you're not making songs like, that, like from Controversy and Dirty Mind and his second album, Prince, and I think that's where the issue was, and that's probably one of the reasons why I pulled it. I mean, the album did eventually get re-released, but nonetheless, it was just like, So I would say, this is how I would look at it if you're going to listen to this album. If you're okay with the explicitness, then yeah, enjoy it. If that's a problem, then yeah, you're not going to like this album, I don't think. And if you're expecting something like Sign of the Times, like the amount of work he did with that musically, that's not here. It's not on this album at all. It's very simplistic when it comes to the music, compared to Sign of the Times and Purple Rain and 1999. Frankly, I feel it's probably the most simplistic album musically he has done up until this point. I mean, lyrically, it's like I said, it's Let's Pretend We're Married or Darling Nikki, and we just sprouted songs from that. Nonetheless, top 5 tracks: La Grind, Super Funky. I'm sorry, Super Funky Cali, Fragile Sexy, Cindy C, When Two Are in Love, and two Nigs United for West Compton. So take it for that one. That's the most I could say about this one. So let's cue the music.